Alright, time to talk about Darwin's Game. A pretty interesting title for a survival game anime, and I gotta say, right from the beginning, that I see strikingly obvious similarities between this show and the 2011 release Future Diary. First of all, they use phones to locate each other and receive information on their opponent. Second, each one of the combatants are given a certain unique skill to use for furthering their chances of survival. And third, and most important, the main character meets a crazy hot chick that is in love with him and helps him out in most dangerous situations he finds himself in. There are even more similarities considering the first episode, as the protagonist of the story is being hunted by a mysterious, weird looking fellow that corners him into a remote, unpopulated building. Naturally, Darwin's game inspired its initial structure heavily on Mirai Nikki, but it still tried to make its own original story. I do however appreciate that the main character, called Sado Kaname, is a well-developed teenage boy that can hold his own in a fight. Lately it seems like anime is slowly growing up, and more oftenly targets an older teen audience. Kaname is 17 years old, so I guess it's fair to say this particular show tries to pander towards an older than teen demographic. I'm a bit too old to be part of that group, but I can enjoy this title just fine, given its interesting characters and intriguing concept. Also, before I express my early thoughts on this property, I have to mention that at the moment,
Go on.
I've only seen 4 episodes, as I'm also watching the dub version, because that's how I roll. So yeah, these are my early impressions on merely the first episodes of Darwin's Game, not a full-fledged review. That being said, let's jump right into the story and start with this strange opening chase scene. Right from the beginning, we're being introduced to the first antagonist of the series. This weird guy wearing a panda bear mask appears to be the mascot of some team that hates his job so badly that he has come to enjoy the thrill of hunting down people to brutally end their lives with his knife. Well, I guess the Darwin Game competition is full of psychopathic murderous serial killers. So by the end of the series, this furry guy won't stand out at all. Alright, back to the main character. He seems like the standard shonen protagonist, a bit older than most, which is great, but still average in looks, and with an uninteresting personality. On one fateful day, he gets a notification on his phone about a mysterious looking application titled with the name Darwin's Game. And before one of his friends could stop him from confirming his registration, Diamond goes into full slow motion mode and a snake pops out of his phone and bites Kaname's neck. Obviously, the friend who wanted to stop him from opening the application was already involved with the game, and now he tries to help the protagonist survive his encounter with the panda bear serial killer. In this twisted competition that has taken control over their lives. As I mentioned before, each individual that participates in Darwin's Game was granted a special unique skill, which they call a sigil. In Kaname's case, his ability allows him to reproduce in his hands any object that he has touched before. The objects he creates last as long as he remains conscious, or until he touches them in things return. At first he was unaware of his ability and goes into battle with his first opponent without even knowing that he has a sigil at his disposal. This and the lack of experience in combat made the competition severely one-sided, and Kaname was still shocked that at the moment he could not believe that he was hunted like an animal by this deranged, weird-looking guy. Luckily for him, his friend from school shows up and helps him escape certain death, using his own sigil to wound and slow down the opponent. At this moment it was rather clear to me that this guy won't gonna last. Having the more capable companion die at the beginning of the story is a standard storytelling trope in video games and anime alike. By mere luck, the protagonist narrowly manages to win the fight. His opponent disintegrates bit by bit in this weird collection of cubes. I wasn't sure I liked this gimmick at first, but as I kept on watching, I started to appreciate the geometric forms this disintegration leaves behind. It gives the show a certain identity, and it certainly helps with creating a distinct look for this anime. Even the civilians that are not part of the survival game consider these forms to be street art due to their artistic shapes and strange placement. After losing his friend and surviving his first battle, Kaname gets into contact with Karino Shuka, a fellow player of the Darwin's game. He is where anime is starting to get really good. You see, so far it was engaging enough to be interesting, but now they introduce some cute petite blonde girl to the mix to make sure people like me keep on watching the show. Well, Shuka definitely adds another good reason for me to stick around and keep watching.
Yoo-hoo, Kaname! Have you been waiting for me long?
She's cute, and at first sight even innocent, until she decides that you're an enemy, and then Shuka will unleash her chains of chaos, God of War style. She's dangerous, regarded by many to be one of the most deadly participants of the survival game.
She achieved that rank without a single loss. She hunted the Roppongi area so hard there are barely any players left there.
With her little sigil and almost yandere personality,
You kill, you win. You win, you live. That's all you want, isn't it? Pretty simple, really.
Shuka has red eyes and long blonde hair. She is usually shown wearing a dark red dress, and whenever she's not mercilessly murdering people, Shuka is typically cheerful and friendly. Considering her gothic Lolita attire, she make a great figurine addition to my collection. Her sigil is called Queen of Thorns, which allows Shuka to control wire-like objects, ranging from chains to wires. When she asks the main character of his sigil and he doesn't know how to answer, the mood drastically changes, and Shuka is determined to better have him dead than ignorant. A fight breaks and the protagonist is forced to constantly run away from her dangerous chains, while also using whatever item at his disposal to delay her attacks. In the thick of the fight, Kaname finally realizes the potential of his abilities and sounds a gun using his sigil. After carefully creating a plan, the main character actually succeeds in outwitting the blonde, no surprise here, and manages to pin her down and incapacitate her. At this point I was kinda confused. I mean, what is gonna happen next? The main character wouldn't dare kill such a beautiful young lady, and yet Darwin's game is a competition to the death. Thankfully, the writers found a way around this issue by simply adding a previously suspiciously unmentioned surrender feature to this competition.
I surrender. I'll obey you from now on, Kaname.
Therefore, the blonde submits, and the protagonist claims her as his personal slave. Wrong anime. So Kaname passes out prematurely, and Shuka decides to take good care of him and become his bride. Both versions sound good for me. But at the end of the first episode, Blondie finishes with the line that she wants to start a family with Kaname.
I would like us to make a family.
But sadly, in the second episode, she backs down from my statement a bit and claims that she was only referring to a party for the game. Yeah, so no children, no providing, and no taking care of him, or even some benefits? Instead, the main character is forced to accompany her shopping and give her compliments on her dress. Not what he signed out for, that's for sure. Now, there are a bunch of other characters being introduced starting the second episode, like more psychopath mass murderers and some scary looking fellows, but I usually only tend to keep an eye out for women. Therefore, I'll introduce one more girl before I come to a close, Kashiwagi Rain. She's a loli that is known as an information broker. She can calculate probabilities and set her predictions for currency, while staying as far from the other competitors as possible. Ray's motto when it comes to Darwin's game is to run instead of trying to fight or capture the enemy. Rain is skilled at sniping and is her preferred combat style when she has to fight. She's also 13, so yeah, I guess the game lets children fight to their death as well. Not fair if you ask me, especially when it comes to such cute young ladies. Her sigil, however, is pretty powerful. It allows Rain to know the precise location of momentum of objects around her and is able to calculate how they'll move based on said information. basically giving her the ability to see into the future, category style.
In their eyes, the present and the future would be every bit as clear as the past.
Someone has to, I guess, because the protagonist has a long way to go before becoming a true leader in the Darwin's game competition.
I understand.